Hey Darius, thanks for joining in.
Hi there. So
Good to have you.
Likewise, yeah, good to be here.
Good, thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming in. This is the 32nd show that we are having, 32nd week continuously we are having. This wouldn't be possible without the support of all of you. So I'm really thankful to all of you for coming along in this particular journey. So today we are going to talk about personal knowledge management, the tools, techniques, and the processes. For a very long time, we only had enterprise management, knowledge management, because it is important because, say, for example, you are interfacing with a company, you are talking to a company, you are not talking to a person. You're talking to that company. Say, for example, I represent Gravitas Wins as a company, and there are 300 other people. Let's say, for example, Rishabh is working for Gravitas Wins as a company. When you are talking to Rishabh, you are not talking to Rishabh, but you are talking to Gravitas Wins as a company. So it was absolutely important that all of the knowledge that was gathered in the enterprise somehow was known to Rishabh, and then Rishabh was able to draw upon that wealth of knowledge and exhibit to the others. So it was important. But one thing that I have seen over the last, say for example, 10, 15 years is that earlier my dad joined one company and he retired in that particular company. Now, if somebody works for more than 5 years in a company, they ask, okay, are you worthless that nobody else will give you a job? Now, 2-3 years we switch jobs, which means managing that knowledge rests with us, not with the company. We have to manage our knowledge. We have to manage how we acquire knowledge, how we store it, how we process it, how we display it. So we need processes, we need tools, and so on and so forth. So that's what we are going to discuss today. Now, because this is Gravitas Wins, I want to kind of, again, we can discuss quite a lot. It's the spectrum is wide, but I want to bring that down into only about 4 parameters, which is the Gravitas Wins thing: wealth, insights, network, and self-control. So that's what we are talking about as wins. So within that, say for example, wealth. What is your investment? Where are you storing that? Maybe you have a fixed deposit in a bank, savings account in a bank. Maybe you have certain real estate property. Maybe you have some stocks. Probably they are all in different tools. You don't have a unified view of what your asset is, what your investment is, what is your worth is. Similarly, let's say for example, networking. Here itself, probably we have about 15 people, and I'm sure you are meeting quite a lot of people. Maybe say for example 100 people. Do you have their birthdays to wish? Do you know if you had to wish them on a Christian festival or a Hindu festival or any kind of a particular language festival or a regional festival? Do you know that? You had to manage that particular knowledge. When did you last spoke to somebody? So before we started, I gave a introduction to Mr. Kurana. I can almost give that kind of an introduction for everybody except for Darius. You have to forgive me. We will get to know each other. But I can almost give that for everybody because I'm managing that particular knowledge in a kind of a tool with the process, right? So when it comes to networking, what about self-control? Whatever health-related activities that you are doing. So all of this will have to be managed now by us. So the question that I have is, should we manage it? Why can't we just live life as it comes? So that's what we are going to discuss. And I want all of you to pitch in. So today it is not a presentation that I'm giving. It's a discussion that I'm going to have with 2 of my friends, Xavier and Rishabh. It does not mean all the others are not my friends. So all of us will pitch in. But the other point is, should we manage? what are the tools that they are using? Are they using the same tool for a very long time, or they are switching? And if they are switching, why they are switching? Those are the things that we are going to talk about. So by the end of today's discussion, what I want to achieve is, one, I hope you understand that you need to manage knowledge now. You cannot leave it to a company. You cannot leave it to your spouse. You cannot leave it to somebody else. You cannot outsource it. You need to manage knowledge. That's one. I hope that becomes clearer. Two is that, how do I manage it then? Without getting overwhelmed, how do I manage it? What are the ways that I can manage it? So hopefully you get certain kind of a processes and tools with that. And also, what is the next step that we can take? You finish this particular session, you get out. What are the one or two things that you can do immediately after you get out of this call? So those are some of the results, outputs that I would like to achieve by end of this particular discussion. Hopefully that's okay. Okay, so as I said, in my opinion, and I've been following this particular thought process for at least for about 5-6 years, where the responsibility to manage the knowledge is personal and it is mine, and it cannot be transferred to the companies that I'm working. So Xavier, you are a writer, you are an editor, and I know you also read a lot of books. So how do you capture all of that information that you are reading? And I'm sure that you are also, while reading, say for example, we talked about habits. So you're reading one book on habits, you are reading another book. How do you interlink that information? So how do you do that, Xavier?
Okay. The first thing that I do when I read is I take these highlights of these chapters or quotes from that book. So that I enter it into a tool that I use called Obsidian. I switched to Obsidian a year back. Before that, I was using a tool called TiddlyWiki. So the reason why I switched to Obsidian was it gives me this knowledge graph where it connects. Like I read, as you said, a book about habit. I read 5 books about habits. I find the common themes across all that. And that tool helps me get to do that. So that's one way of how I do that. Other than that, I also have, as I said, I have been using TiddlyWiki for like almost a decade, more than that actually. So I've been using that as my note-taking tool, knowledge management tool, personal knowledge management tool, clippings of stuff. I was not an Evernote user after they switched to the web-based version, but I've used Evernote from their early desktop standalone tool era.
Good. So you talked about Obsidian, you talked about Knowledge Graph, you talked about Evernote, and also TiddlyWiki. We'll touch upon some of these things. Rishabh, what are the tools that you use to capture the ideas that come to you? I know you also into micro SaaS, developing some of the products. So I'm sure you are getting a lot of ideas. This is a product that can be developed, or this is the product that can be enhanced in such a particular way, or a small product can be developed to enhance Twitter. So you get a lot of ideas. Plus, you also attend a lot of courses. So even within the courses, you generate a lot of insights. How do you capture all of those things?
Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot, Joseph, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. Now, coming back to the question, how do I manage it? So basically, there are two parts. There are 2 parts of this question, like how do I do it and what I do, what tool I use. So for now, I'm using Obsidian, and I have moved from like Notion to Roam, and then Roam to Obsidian. And now coming back to the question, like how do I do so? So first of all, as you said, I work a lot in the micro SaaS thing, and then capturing some of the insights that I'm having. So the very first important thing to me in this process is there should not be any registration. Like it should be very flow, and there should not be any resistance between me writing them and then having those insights and them writing them. So the process should be seamless. So for me, the tool should not process or should not pose any kind of you can say problem for me to organize them first of all and then write them. So the important thing for me is to write just as I'm having them and then write them. So I use Obsidian, and I have something called as daily pages in Obsidian as well. And but when it comes to the microsas only, then I have a page within the Obsidian with the name called microsas ideas, and then within them I whenever I have something I just write them down. But if it's not something related to the microsas or it's something completely new or completely new insight, so I write them in the daily pages, daily notes pages, so that I don't have to think about the container or the folder I have to put them into. I just have to first of all think and then write them as soon as possible they are like into my mind. So that's what I do as of now.
Okay, so you talked about flow, and
Yeah.
Xavier talked about knowledge graph. So let's dig deeper into that, and I want to go deeper into that. That's one. Two, both of you are seems to be using Obsidian now.
Yes.
I also use Obsidian. So let's see why. What's the reason that Rishabh you switched from? We don't need to talk about why you switched from Rome to Notion to Obsidian. But what I'm interested in is why are you using Obsidian? What attracted you to use Obsidian? Similarly for Xavier as well. Yeah, Rishabh, go ahead.
Yeah, like to understand it's quite a journey. It's like when we have a Notion, I started with the Notion and I want to start from that point so that the context is better and everyone can understand why I'm using Obsidian right now. So I started from the Notion. Notion is more of like an approach that we have been programmed into from our childhood. Like we have been programmed into creating folders and then creating files and then writing them down, like having notes, typical notes kind of a structure. So when I started back in the Notion, I thought like this is the only tool I will need, and this will sort out my all of the digital knowledge kind of requirements. Then I later on realized that after working in the Notion for like 6 months, that it's taken too much time for me to organize the knowledge which I'm means it seems like I'm not writing it, I'm just organizing the things. So that was kind of hitting the upper limit of Notion for me. And then at the same time, coincidentally, Rome research was introduced and it was in the beta phase, right? So I switched to Rome research because it was very quick. Like it was as soon as I was getting anything, I just have to write down into daily pages, and I don't have to think about what's the folder and what's the we can say workspace I have to put into. I just have to write them down and I can categorize them later. So it's like giving a bat or giving a ball to a child who thinks like he's gonna make out of most out of it. But as soon as I progressed, I also hit a upper limit in Notion, in Rome. So what happened was I was creating a lot of atomic notes. I was creating a lot of points. I was creating a lot of insights. But at the end, when I look back after like 10 months or so, I realized that I just have them. I don't know what I have them. Means I don't know what's in my room, what I have written about. It's like there are bunch of points. It's like bunch of seeds spread around the whole garden, but I don't know where are they. So they are not categorized. Means it's like your thoughts. You have bunch of thoughts, they are flowing one after another, but if don't make sense of them, then they will make you mad. And that's what was happening in the room as well. So then I realized like there should be a middle ground, there should be a balance between the flow and as well as the organization, which is what exactly Obsidian optimized for, I think. And that's why I'm using Obsidian.
Okay, so Xavier, why are you? So you are using Obsidian uh, because of the graph. Sorry, no. Why are you using Obsidian? Xavier is using it for the knowledge graph. Yeah, Xavier, can you go deeper into what is knowledge graph and why knowledge graph is useful to you?
Oh, yeah. See, a knowledge graph is basically a visual representation of some connections between each of the nodes that you have in your Obsidian Vault or whichever knowledge management system that you use. So how I kind of find it useful is that, see, I read a lot of books, so I collect interesting quotations from fiction, from non-fiction and all that. So what I do is I tag them, okay, this is related to sunrise. There is a wonderful line that I found about sunrise. I tag it as sunrise or dawn. Then I find something else that is related to, say, hero, being a hero or heroism, and I find something else, different topics. So across different books. In the same book, you might have different quotes between different subjects, right? I'm using the word subject here, between different subjects. So at the end, say I want to link, I want to see a connection between a particular topic, like how get a collection of different notes around a particular subject. I get those knowledge graphs that point to a particular item. That's the simplest
Okay, thanks.
bare bones
I think, yeah, Xavier, I'm going to share my screen so that everybody can see what you are talking about. So what Xavier is talking about is, so this particular blog post I read from Collaborative Fund. I've read this and then I have noted down everything of that particular note. But I have also made connection to other pieces or other subjects that I have written. So Natural Maniac, this is another one from Collaborative Fund, and I somehow kind of linked that to that. And then you can see that I'm able to navigate from one to the other, because of which, like what Xavier was saying, we can collect as much information as we want, but I'm able to interlink between these nodes. So whenever I need to locate something, it becomes easier, which is what Rishabh was saying. We can go on taking notes, but at some point in time, we don't know what's in my notebook. I'm not able to locate it. That's the major problem that we all enter into. We know, oh my God, I don't know. I mean, it is something that is in my head. I am not able to place it. But what it will always do is, you will know somewhere, either a place or a person, somewhere you will make a connection and you want to connect back from that. And I'm going to give you an example here. So this is I also use Obsidian, and this is my knowledge graph. As you can see, there's quite a bit of things that are there in my knowledge graph. Let me take this. So you can see there's quite a bit of connection that you can see here in my knowledge graph. Let's say, for example, again, I have this 2021 newsletter, and it is already linked to so many things. And I can go to that main node, and then I can branch to a few other places. That's the beauty of that knowledge graph. So everything is linked, and I'm able to navigate from one to the other. It's a graph that I can go on. So let's say, for example, I'm going to chain of beliefs. Then again, it can go from digital brain, chain of beliefs, and all the other aspects of it as well. So I can also go to a particular person, and then if I had made entries for that particular person, we talked about networking, we will talk about that. And then it will give me every time I had made a connection with him. If at all I had notes, so say for example, I talked to Rishabh and he says something and I have come and noted it down, it'll all be here and I'm able to locate that very quickly. The other thing that I like I don't use knowledge graph much, but I use the linking a lot. But the one thing that I like the best is opening random nodes.
Yeah.
Now what happens is, because it opens up a random node, it is there in my garden, but I don't know it is there. But every day when I kind of click on a random node, it will pop up and I can refresh my memory. And then I can branch out from there. I am very scared to do this because I don't know what all going to pop up, and it is live streaming. So you can see I have quite a lot of these kinds of stuff. Okay. I will also have, you can see here notes on languages. Now look at this. I have this, tag. I have made a particular tag, and I can look at the tag and all of the things on the tag will come in. So as Rishabh said 2 points, which I want to re-emphasize. Taking notes it should not hinder in your flow. When you are having the thought, if you had to switch 3 pages, 3 tabs, or 3 applications, before you can note that down, you would lose the stream of thought. So it should be quick to take. That's one. 2, I should be able to link. I should not be spending time on organizing it. So if you see my Obsidian, it's all in single folder. I am not organizing them. There is no folder structure for me. So say for example, if I show you, I may have to show you again, I'm going to stop and I'm going to show you. So if you see I call it as a digital brain, so it is termed as brain, but you can see it's all single folder. I don't have any other organization. My organization is only tags and linkages, because of which I can start somewhere and I can locate that particular knowledge, what I want, very quickly, right? So that's one. Okay, Krunaji, I also know that you are a writer and you are a columnist, and you have been doing this for quite a long time. So can you tell us, I mean, if you can, any of the tools that you use to manage what I have written and when I wrote and where I have written, any of those kinds of things you have? Any database? Okay. Okay. So anyone else, do you use any of the note-taking tools, and why do you use that particular tool? Anyone? Darius, Jerome, anyone? Sukhvinder, Devang?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting how you use that, and I can see it's all in a flat structure. I've used Evernote for 11 years, and I use it not just daily, but several times every hour because of the keyboard shortcut. So, and the web clipper. So if there's something that I need to note or remember or keep or archive, I just use keyboard shortcuts, because you talked about having the flow and having keyboard shortcuts where I can stay on whatever app or browser tab I'm on. I don't have to go off it, and I can make an Evernote. Same with my task management. You know, if it's something I need to do, then you can use TickTick or Todoist shortcuts. And I have a single Evernote notebook with 25,000, I've just checked, 25,000 notes over 11 years in one notebook. And I use just tags. But it works for me. Every so often I think, oh, should I put things into folders and notebooks and notebook stacks? But tags works of dreams for me. And I use the I have the same tag structure in my Evernote that I have is the same structure in my Todoist, in my Gmail, and that matches the same folder structure on my Google Drive. So I have two, I love to delve more into Notion and Roam and Obsidian, but I need to get work done and I need to be productive. And yes. Interesting what you said about Notion. You can spend most of your time just making it look pretty and faffing around with it, so but I'll give you an example. I was on a call with someone recently and I had to reference, I was talking about a knowledge management article I wrote back in 2004. And because I knew it was either in Google Drive or it was in Evernote, and I know, roughly, if it's older than such a date, it's going to be in Google Drive. You can find it because of Google Drive has such a good search engine. You can find it. I'm worried that if I start trying new apps, I think, oh, is it in Obsidian? Is it there? Is it there? Is it there? So I know there are right. Trying new productivity tools is like an addiction, like addiction to dopamine. And we have to be careful. We have to treat that as a hobby that you do outside of work. And I could do probably 95% of my work now that I used when I started in knowledge management 21 years ago, which was Outlook Notes, Windows Drive, and so on. Try and keep it simple and keep the number of apps that you use to a minimum. And and get your dopamine hits outside of work. That's my advice.
You're absolutely right. So a couple of points I want to touch upon. So as you rightly said, we can all get into that treadmill of trying out every new app that is coming in. and it'll all feel good. Notion comes in, you open it, you can put in all the notes, and then suddenly you are forgot everything else because it's way too much. You can't really figure it out. The other one you talked about is keep it simple, and then you seem to have a similar folder structure across different apps, so that you can go and pinpoint, okay, if it's a doc, it's going to be here. If it's kind of a notes, it's going to be here. If it's a to-do list, it's going to be here. So it is very easy for your brain to cognitively locate very quickly. So which is a very nice point. Thanks, Darius, for sharing that. KK, I know you are also into a lot of writing. Do you have any tools that you use often? Can you share some of those tools?
I'm really sorry because I generally don't do this. I'm not a very structured person. Most of the times it's all in my head. Sometimes I get loose track and then, yeah. So that's where I am. I just had a thing in the chat also that I've not started anything.
So Krishna, okay, that's a very valid point. A lot of us are like this. And I'm sure if I go around the table, I'm sure half of them will say, okay, I don't use any notes, anything. Probably I'm using the notes app that is coming along with the operating system or the mobile app. That's all I'm using. That's more than good enough. Do you see a point in whatever that we have discussed, or you yourself have felt that there is a need to use such kind of tools or a process? It could be paper, right? Your end of day, you are writing in paper, but a process, or do you think, I have survived so well, so much, why bother? What do you think?
Well, I think there is really a need for it, and probably what people like me are doing is a little bit of injustice, because there is so much of things which I have read or come across which I have not documented properly, because of which maybe I'm also losing the edge here. And with a lot of this information explosion, it also matters that what is relevant for you needs to be captured, because otherwise you might get lost in the sea, right? Like there is so much of information gets thrown at us, and I had started to consciously avoid certain information sources, like watching TV or newspapers, reading newspapers, things like that, because those are all ephemeral stuff, is what I'm just starting to realize. And just 2-3 years back, but certain places where it's a little bit deep knowledge, like research article or things like that, somebody giving a point of view, those sort of things, I think we need to document it, and there needs to be a process. There is no second thought about it.
KK, you touched upon a very valid point. See, and I have faced this, and I don't know, Darius, Rishabh, Xavier, if you have it, because you are using a tool and it allows you to clip aspects, web page, any other thing. So as Krishna said, the temptation is to clip everything. And now, earlier at least the storage was too expensive, so you have to clean up. Now 1 TB is probably 4,000 rupees, not more than that. So it's very easy to increase your storage space. And computation power is also it is expanding now. How do you handle that temptation? You are reading a really good article, Xavier. Okay, so the question is to you. You are reading a really good article, and you think I need to store it. How do you determine it is relevant? It will be useful to you after a day or a week. How do you determine that?
Yeah, the thing that you said about collecting, everybody is indulging. Even I have done that. It's called collector's fallacy. You just put everything, be a magpie, and collect everything that's shiny. But as you said, I come across an article that I want to read. I do 2 things. I just open it in a tab, let it be there for a while, and still I get back to it, right? So I'll have some ideas about it. I do 2 things. If the article is too long, I clip the entire article and put it I take it as a markdown, put it in my Obsidian. I have a small folder called inbox. I just drop it in, tag it as to process, so that shows in my knowledge graph as a red color box, that is ball, that is thing. Then what I do is I kind of take that, look at it again, read it, highlight a clip, say obsidian, as you said, right? You just can create links just like that to square brackets, create a link, right? So I create it, and you can open up, you can open up in a side new note and pull out that particular information. So yeah, out of like a long article, you might find like 3 points that are relevant to you, that might be relevant to you, and those three could be related to a single topic, or they could be related to two different topics. So I take a call whether I split it up, or I again add it as a summarize that and put it as a new article, new note, and delete this old note. That's how I do for longer notes. But for shorter notes, yes, just the relevant points and a link. That's it.
Okay. Well, I have certain points to make there, and we will go. Danishji, do you have any tools that you use? Do you have any points to make on this?
When you are sitting in the company of very intelligent people, and I don't know whether to be diplomatic or not, but I think this is all alien to me. And till the time I think I'm going to suffer badly, I would not even consider doing these kind of things, because you save it and then you try to save it, retrieve it from your drive. And but now I think hearing all of you out, it is looking that I think I need to do it, and especially as KK, he was trying to be as diplomatic as possible without saying it, but
very true.
So I will just put it this way: listening to intelligent people like you is there, and I think today evening when I'm going to be talking about when I'm going to be meeting my friends, I'll say, "Listen, you guys, you need to do all these kind of things." I'll try to appear intelligent. I don't do it. I don't use it. I'll be honest. I would have loved to do what Darais was saying, or I don't know whether that's the right pronunciation. The Persian pronunciation for your name is Darais, so that's why I'm saying it. But yes, I think, but it makes sense, because I mean, then you are able to use your time effectively, as Xavier mentioned.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There's a lot of diplomacy that I can see there. So,
not from me.
Thanks,
not from me for sure.
Good. Yeah, Ashwini, go ahead.
Joseph, to add like what tools that I use. I mean, I stick to my humble Microsoft tools which come with my operating system, but then my Excel and my OneNote have served the purpose to keep me organized. So I am a little apprehensive always taking new tools. I try them, but I always return back to them. And I personally like writing things down. That's like very short term. If I want something, make to-do lists and every of those things, I actually write it down. Anything that I want to remember then goes back to those notes. That said, I'm very, very meticulous about my notes for work. But when it comes to any of the other things, right, I will say, okay, I have to bookmark this and I have to get back, but I don't do that for my other things. But my work, I'm very, very meticulous in using these tools.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the point, thanks Ashwini, that goes back to the point that Darius made earlier. Darius, I hope, again, I'm pronouncing your name properly. See, the purpose of all of this is to get work done. So we have to understand that's the whole purpose. Whether you are using paper, see, Socrates and Tolkien, let's say for example, he didn't have Obsidian, but he wrote books after books and he became a millionaire. And we can have all of these tools, and what do we do with that? So at the end of the day, the question is, are you getting work done? If you are able to get work done, if you are able to remember things, if you are able to do things by putting it on post-it notes, or putting it on paper, putting it on Excel sheet, doesn't matter. I think that perspective of the outcome is matter. I don't know what kind of notes Mr. Krona has. Krishna said he doesn't have any notes, but following him on LinkedIn, I do know that every day he posts something. It's not going to happen. It is not, and I've also tried doing that. I can't sit in front of a computer and suddenly ideas pop up. I don't think that's good. So he will have something. It may all be written notes. So the end of the question, the perspective is, are you getting your work done? Are you able to manage? Is the point that we need to answer? And I think, in whatever way that we can manage. Yeah, Darius, please go ahead.
Sorry, Xavier. Do you want to go? Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
My family call me Darius. My surname is also Persian as well. My father's from Mumbai, and I've Persian ancestry. I think it was you, Xavier. You answered Krishna's question. I don't know where to start, and you said start with pen and paper. I totally agree. When I first read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits book, classic, 26 years ago when I first read it, I drew a mind map of my life with me in the middle. This was before mind mapping apps. This is pen and paper. On one side was business, one side was personal. Personal had things like my body, which is not in good shape, but family, home, car, relationships, personal development, spiritual, community, whatever. And then my work could be marketing, sales if you've got your own business, or it could be clients if you're a freelancer. I mind mapped my business, and over the years I did it on a piece of paper, and that has turned into my tag structure. Also, I used to love watching all those productivity YouTube channels where they say, oh, this new app is out this week, and a few days later there's another one, and I was trying every single one, and excuse my language, some people call it productivity porn. You just become addicted to it, and you just want more and more of it because you get the dopamine buzz from trying new apps. And I think it's a form of procrastination from what you really have to do. And also, my life changed, and I became a much more productive when I stopped watching all these productivity YouTube videos. I remember the day, it was June the 6th, on the anniversary of D-Day, when in the World War II, when the Allies invaded Nazi-occupied Europe. And a thought came into my head when I was finding out more about the history and reading about it, what a massive operation it was, logistically and on the scale of it. And I thought, how on earth did they plan all that? They didn't have Obsidian or Notion or task management. And I thought, actually, most of the people I admire didn't, they weren't focused on the tool. They were focused on the process and what they really wanted to achieve, their compelling goal, what difference they want to make in the world. And I think the choice of tool almost comes secondary or even tertiary or level under. So I think once you're focused clearly on what you want to achieve, then choose just one of the tools. One of them is going to work for you, and just stick with it and just get cracking on with what you're being put on this earth to do.
Yeah. So thanks, Darius. So, you said you take notes on pen and paper. There is nothing easier, right? It's easier to note down on a pen and paper rather than on this. Xavier, you have something to say?
Yes, it is. Most of you mentioned Obsidian was not there in the ancient Greece and all that. But the truth is, it was there not in the form as an Obsidian tool, but they called it common placing books. That was a term that they were using. Marcus Aurelius used it. Napoleon used it to plan his stuff. Thomas Jefferson used it. Bill Gates used it. They were using tools that were there at that time, which were appropriate for that time. So as it said, Socrates or Marcus Aurelius wrote on scrolls. Napoleon used calfskin notebooks. Bill Gates has his modern tools to do, but it's all that they were using it. See, the idea is to have a central repository of ideas, quotes, observations, or some information. So, and how you act upon it. That is knowledge management. It's not about the tool that you actually use or do it. For example, I use Obsidian also for my task management. For some time, I use it because at work I find that's easy for me to take notes on meetings. A couple of them use OneNote. A couple of weeks back, I converted a hardcore OneNote user with 15 years of data to Obsidian. and he's been very happy about it. It's not a big deal to change. It's just that, as all of you had said, it is about the process or how you take notes. The tool is just Ashwini said OneNote. Yes, OneNote is a very good tool. I use Keep a lot before Obsidian Mobile came up. Then I transfer it. So you can. I also write on a lot of paper, draw on stuff, then capture it and then convert it. The only reason why I would suggest Obsidian is because it's text files. That's my major thing, and portability. I'm looking at only those two items. Uh, like Darius, I've been using Evernote since there was this 2.2 or 2.25. They had it was only a Windows based app that you can use. They called it they had a toilet paper kind of a logo because it was never ending sheet kind of thing. That was the logic that they built. I still have it, and I still have a couple of old exe files that I can still open it up and use it. I'm saying that that tool doesn't matter. It's just that the concept of capturing that information and using it matters.
So I think what matters is, again, Xavier, I use Obsidian purely because of that. And all my tools, most of the tools that I use, whether I can either export it into text or whether it is in text itself.
Yes.
So that when I'm moving from Mac to Windows or to Linux, it doesn't matter. Or I'm moving from Android to iOS, iOS to Android, or any of those things doesn't matter because it's a text file. I can open it up in any operating system and I can go and work on it. And I have suffered that. I would have everything on an Excel, one version of Excel to the other Excel, it wouldn't work.
No.
And then Evernote, sometimes it lost the data. So those are the reasons that Obsidian. Okay, let's move on to something else. As I said, we are talking about wealth insights, network, and self-control, right? So let's move to the network. Again, I would be very keen and interested to know, how do you keep in touch with people? Because we all can remember only about information about, let's say, 50 people max, not more than that. And but there will always be a case where we need to talk more. And in my case, I'll forget things. I might have talked to Jerome, and I know he studied with me in the college. I mean, some of the major ones I will remember, but especially when I'm on the call, I'll forget even the major ones. I'll forget that. What did we speak last time? I'll forget that. Do you guys have that kind of a problem? How do you approach it? Xavier, you want to start?
Okay. I actually use Todoist for reoccurring reminders to contact certain people at certain frequencies. So, for example, my mum is on there as every 2 days, my sister every so often, and then certain friends will be every few months. So with Todoist, it's great for reoccurring tasks. And then and then it will pop up, you can use a filter to see who do I need to message today. And, my mum is priority one. She wouldn't understand any of this, but so I know that, first and foremost, got to contact my mum, otherwise she thinks I'm dead. And then if I've got time, I'll contact the others at 10 o'clock. I usually 10 o'clock to 10:30 is the sort of messaging time block. And then, in Todoist, you can use comments and write comments or notes within that person. Or I could say, remind me to message mum about a leg or something. Again, use Todoist to talk to her about a leg. I'm only using an example here. So that's the system I use for doing that sort of thing.
Okay, so good. So what I hear from you is that even to talk to your sister, you use Todoist. Okay, so that's a good one. Xavier, do you have any points to add there?
I had Microsoft had done an interesting tool that pops up when you make a call or after the call. You can type a note for that particular call, about the call. So it was very useful for me, especially when you're calling somebody and somebody had called you about something. I can just type that in immediately after the call. So when the next call, when I call them or they call me, right, that pops up front saying that. It was a very wonderful tool. I was using it for 2 years. I switched phone. I forgot about it. Looks like it is dead now. So I'm missing that particular tool. It was a very, very useful tool, especially uh, when you have these ephemeral calls, right? Somebody calls you about a particular number, or somebody calls you you have to give information about something. You just need that particular info. It just pops up. And if it's a birthday, also you could tag it like it pops up on your birthday, so you can immediately give them a call. Or if they call you about something to wish you on on my birthday, right? I know what I talked with them last, so I can just continue that conversation. That was a very interesting tool, but like a couple of months back, I started looking at it again. It's like not working.
Okay, good. Danish J, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. On this, I would commend the Japanese, because the way Japanese works is, and any of you who has worked with them, they would always have a whole bunch of about 6-7 people sitting there, and the guy who's sitting on the right side or on the left side, the extreme right, he would make notes. So, and when you're meeting them again, that old diary will be brought back. And then they would refer. So, I mean, this is something which I face. My daughter's name is Oshin, and I met this gentleman after about 17 years. And then he says, and how is Oshin? And I was just feeling very happy. I said, my God, I was able to make such a great impression. And then I realized, I said, okay, this guy has got this notes here. So we all do this. And that's quite interesting what Mr. Xavier has said. I am going to be approaching all his girlfriends to say he does not remember you. It is the notes that decide.
Yeah. I also have a CRM tool. I also have a personal CRM tool for that.
You bet.
Wonderful. So, see what Danish, shared. See, when somebody says, say for example, I call Rishabh, and I'm able to recollect some of the points that he had talked about earlier in the conversation. Okay, how is your work going? And you talked about developing something. How is it going? We all feel happy that other person remembered something about us. And it is not always from a clean slate that we are starting. It is always nice, right? So say, for example, next time I talk to Darius and I'm saying, hey, you came on this particular show and you came on this particular show, so thank you for that. He's going to feel happy about that Joseph remembered that I attended 2 shows, right? So it's the same thing with everybody. They will, when we pronounce their name properly, which I have a problem, and especially it's a problem when we are working in a multicultural setup. That's one. And I will forget almost any other aspect of it. So whenever I call, or I will sit down and write notes about people, what they like, what they don't like, if at all they have shared. So when I speak next time, I'm able to refer to it, and that's how I'm able to build my network. That's one. 2 is also when I note down what they like. Let's say, for example, Rishabh says, I'm interested in micro SaaS. I'll go and note that down. Anytime I read an article which is related to that, I will go and see, okay, to whom should I share? And I will share. And they will always appreciate. It may not be useful to them. See, by now, Rishabh might know everything about micro SaaS. So it may not be useful to them. But they will always appreciate somebody thought of them and shared something about that. Just yesterday it happened. I know one person who is into copywriting and everything to do with writing, copyright as a business, copywriting, SEO, ghostwriting, and all of that thing. So yesterday, as I was listening to a podcast, I remembered something about, or rather the podcast was about creating verbal identity. So she was offering a service called verbal identity branding, basically, but not anything else, not SEO, not copywriting and everything, but verbal identity. So I shared it with somebody whom I knew, and she said, I'm doing this already, but thank you that you thought of me and you sent this in the morning, right? So that is how you build relation. Because otherwise, you can't just every time call when you have some need. You'll have to keep in touch, and these are the ways you can keep in touch. And that is why these kinds of tools help me a lot. Other than Xavier using that kind of a tool, which has kind of gone away, anyone else use any other tool, a personal CRM tool, so to speak? Do you have anything? Rishabh, says no, he doesn't have anything. Devang or Ashwini, you have anything to share?
No, nothing, Joseph, apart from things which we have discussed.
Okay. Okay. So that's from a network or relation perspective. Yes, absolutely, Danish. That's why you're going to send me $1,000 now. And in fact, you can send it to everybody of us, right? We will never forget you. That's a very good point. Lovely. So, okay. So we talked about all of this. I want to touch upon wealth also before we close. Now, one thing is, say for example, some of the hard items, right? Say for example, real estate. They will all have certain certificates. So you might store it in some locker. Gold, you might store it in a locker. That's all is fine. But these are the assets that I want to create. Say for example, stocks. You get an idea about a stock, you research. How do you store them? Do you also store them in your notes tool, or how do you invest? Anyone, say for example, Danish, I would be happy to listen. Sukhvinder, people who are building wealth in that particular sense, I would be keen to hear from you. How do you keep track of assets that you want to invest, you want to build? After we said we need $1,000 from Danish, he kept quiet.
No, I'm just trying to see where am I going to get those $1,000 first, and then trying to invest on you. No, I think once again I'll just repeat that whatever you guys are discussing, generally most of the people, and I'm using the word most of the people, are not using any of those tools. Yeah. It's only when they suffer, and I'm using the word only when they suffer, that is when they start going on looking for it. I mean, I was just listening to all of you, and I was trying to figure out, okay, fine, how to make wealth in 30 days, how not to forget friends. This is where these ideas must be coming from. But yes, these are very important things. I mean, I've been using Post-it, let us say, but now if I forget about Post-it, now people have started copying whatever notes that they have on their mobile phones. And then they will start going on looking for it. But yes, the kind of tools that you people are using, the kind of pop-ups that are coming up, that's very interesting. I mean, it will make life much more easier. This is something that needs to be done, and probably, technical people like you must get on or reach those people. I would use the word, technologically challenge people like us to tell them as to, what these are the benefits of it. I mean, I can't even remember the logo of the toilet roll that Xavier was talking about. I mean, so there are so many things. Now, today it's a learning thing for me. But tomorrow, let's say if I get used to it, somebody was just mentioning 15 years of things. I mean, today I remember buying those, or my secretary used to get me those hard disks. I must have kept all the files in there, and I don't know what to retrieve. And probably my philosophy has always been, if it is not needed today, or if you don't use it in the next 2 days, maybe it is of no use to you. So that's how I always used to clear my desk. But I'm not using anything of those kind of things. They are important things. Now I'm making notes. What am I supposed to do after we finish this meeting?
So which is what I wanted to happen, right? So at the beginning of the session, that's what I said. Those are the results that I want, even if it is. But Danish, you made a very good point. Unless we suffer, we will not know the benefit of these tools. And I have suffered, and especially in my line of business, in technology, things change so fast. But there are certain fundamentals which are carried over for generations. So I need to know those concepts and principles, and that's why I keep those notes. And there are certain notes which I have kept for probably, when I say my notes are not only for 15 years, but there are certain notes which I have kept for 15 years, which I keep referring because the principles have remained the same. Whether the form of investment might change, form of knowledge might change, but the certain principles, the underlying principles have remained the same. And that is helping me, as most of you would know, I have a course called Gravitas Wins. In fact, those notes have helped me to create that particular course, because certain details that I have stored, they have come back in helping in that. Rishabh, I want to finally close with this. You talked about keeping a daily log and noting down some of, how you spend your day. Can you tell me why you do that and how you do that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I have pages called daily notes, and they have all of the things which are happening for me in my daily life. Like as Xavier also said, I use Obsidian for the task management as well. Means whenever I have something in my mind, then I just write them down, and then I also use logs. Means the daily log or daily notes page to log my day. Means whatever I have done in particular time. Let's suppose I'm working from 8 to 12 p.m. in the morning, and then I just write them down like I have done this kind of work from this period to this period, and then this kind of stuff. Like, and then when I have just like let's suppose I'm having a lunch like from 2 to 3, then I also wrote them down. It might be seem very overwhelmed or like much to do, but I do this to identify the patterns like in myself when I'm feeling more energetic, and what's the task that I'm feeling more energetic and more like passionate about. So that's how I also use the daily notes to log everything which is coming to my mind. And the second point is like for the task management, and the third point is like to log my day, to log my activities and the things which I do on the daily basis.
But so can you go a little deeper into why you do that? So you talked
Yeah.
about how my day goes, but what gain that you get by logging your day and
Yeah.
saying, okay, this is when I work the most. What have you found in that?
Sure, sure. So as like you also mentioned earlier, like when you have a problem, then you want look for the solution for that problem, right? So I had a problem, and that's why I started doing that. So what happened was, before like working on my current job, I was working like I was self-employed kind of thing. So I was doing freelancing, and I was also working on my projects. So what happened was, for a couple of weeks the productivity was very down. I didn't know where my time was going on.
Mm,
Means I didn't
mm.
have any idea where I was doing. For me, I was sitting on my computer like for 8 to 10 hours a day, but at the end of the week I have not accomplished anything. I was just browsing from here and there and thinking was I was doing something, but after the week, there was nothing. So that particular instance made me realize, man, how I am spending my time, where the time is actually going, and that's why I started measuring my time, means where it's going and how it's going. That's the first point. The second point is, means when I'm working on like a day job, like it's like a up and down, up and down, up and down. Means sometimes you work a lot, and sometimes there are some days which you just don't want to work, right? So means doing this activity from last 1 year or so, it's I kind of know that when's the day when I am going to work a lot and when's the day I'm not going to work. Like suppose if I'm not taking like good sleep, I know that
Mm.
it's not going to work for me. I have to close the work at 12 so that I can take a nap at 12, and then I can restart the work at 2 or 4. So that's the reason number two why I do the log thing.
Yeah, very, very, very valid. Thanks, Rishabh, for sharing it. See, we know more about the systems that we build. Say, for example, car. We know a lot more about that. How much fuel it has, how long it can go, how much we have driven. We know more about the systems that we build than the system that is actually building it. We don't know much about it. There is no observability on us. We don't have any observability on us. We have observability on everything else. So I think what Rishabh does, and if it could be automated, it is even better. But that observability, that okay, I didn't sleep, and this I'm sure many of us have faced. We are in front of the computer for 8 hours, but end of the day we feel very disappointed because we have not done anything. So that observability is what Rishabh is doing, and using the tool to build that observability. Hopefully, over a period of time, there are automated tools to do that.
Yeah.
Hopefully so.
Yeah,
KK, please go ahead.
I have a question for Rishabh. I find this daily track or the task tracking interesting. See, interestingly, in the technology industry, most of the delivery or the engineering folks record their activities, things like that. But though I am part of the industry, I don't do this for various reasons. But it will be really helpful. But how you do this, Rishabh? Like every hour you do this, or how do you do that? Like this recording of your activities, this log track.
Yes,
Rishabh, I think what it will help is if you could show that notes that you had, notebook that you had. I think that will make it even more clearer to a lot of folks.
yeah, sure. So this is something which I do on my notebook as well. I can share the notebook. You can see like you start with the day, and then I don't know if you can see it clearly or not. I write the task here, and then you can see like what I did. Twitter, browse, mobile means just keyword, not the exact thing. And then 7:30 from 7:40, then 7:40 8:30, then all of those things relate means like that. So for me, I will say like there are two ways to do that. First is having a time interval after like for every half hour or for every 1 hour. You can do like from 8 to 9 and 9 to 10. I did this and then that. And the another way which I do is instead of organizing them by time interval, I organize them by the activities I do. Means from let's suppose I'm having a bath from 9 to 10, then I do like have a entry there for the activity, not the time interval. So that's the way I do, and it's much more like makes more sense to me to do that means that way. Like I'm doing work from 8 to 9:15 a.m. Then I just do 8 to 9:15 work. I don't do 8 to 9 and then 9 to 10 and then 10 to 11. So that's how I do it.
Thank you. Thanks, Rishabh. Yeah, Xavier, you have something to add? We are beyond 8 o'clock.
Yes, just to what KK had asked, right? I do something called interstitial journaling. So every 40 minutes or every 1 hour, or when I switch tasks, I type in, I just put the time stamp, I get the time stamp, and I just type what I've done or what I'm doing, so that if I take a break, I go out and I come back, I can still continue from where I left it. So I do that. And it also helps me, like Rishabh said, helps me plan my day. You mentioned about timesheets, right? There was I usually fill in my timesheet at the end of the month. So at the end of the month, I have an entire account of what I did throughout the month. So I could do it weekly or daily, but I prefer my schedule is like I do it at the end of the month. So I can just look at a day, look at the meetings. Okay, this is what I did. Split it across projects, fill it up in the timesheet, and click save. Or
Wonderful. Yeah, thanks, Xavier. I do it.
I have
1
a
second.
small question.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Xavier, did you change your schedule or behavior or after observing yourself or your daily routines in the past?
yes, I've changed a couple of things. I found based on this my interstitial journey, I noticed that I'm not doing some things that say, for example, three. I noticed this is from live thing. So after I take my lunch from 2 to the break between 2 to 3, and I know that from 3 to 3:30 I am like not in a mood to get into any work. So I use that time to either look at my Obsidian Vault, put a update a random note so that my brain is active. I don't feel sleepy. So this is what a couple of things that I changed. Then I also noticed that I have too many meetings in the after the evenings and nights. So what I did was, okay, I started using my morning sessions to do some creative work or think about something, read something, catch up on something, some stuff.
Wonderful. Thanks. So let me conclude. And this is probably the first session that we have gone beyond 8 o'clock, the 1 hour session. I didn't expect, but thanks everybody for staying put until this. So let me, wrap up. I think the point of all of this discussion is, are you able to get things done? That's the fundamental stuff. That's one. Second, as Danish said, only when you suffer, you will know the need of it, and that is too late. You've already suffered, right? So it is to prevent those kinds of suffering. So if you start with these tools, probably you can avoid that kind of a suffering at a later point in time. So at least you can start with any tool. It doesn't matter. We talked a lot about Obsidian, but it doesn't matter. It could be plain pen and paper. As long as you have a certain kind of an organizing method, It doesn't matter, but if you do that, I think you will feel better. And I want to finish with the observability. That is something that we all have to build. Only when we observe ourselves, then we will know. Just the fact that we are observing ourselves will change some of the behaviors. You will stop browsing without notice or without kind of a thought. You will start changing that because you are noting down, right? So that observability itself will change quite a lot for you. So I will leave yourself with that particular thought. Whatever tool that you can use, start having that observability and you will change a lot. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Joseph, if you allow me, I will take 30 seconds to give you another important insight.
Yeah, go ahead.
It is, as Mr. Xavier said, after having lunch, he feels that he can't do much. So he goes to his obsidian and then reads what to do or observes it. If you notice the energy cycles in our day, you will notice that you are most energetic during the morning hours. So if you want to be very productive, you should do the most difficult tasks during the morning hours. One. Second, between 3 to 4, you should do very light work, or you should have a nap, or you should just relax. After 4, you are again energetic, and then you can resume your hard work also. So the best productivity tool is you accomplish your most difficult task during the morning hours, and then you will be more productive. This is the simple thing that you should do in the morning hours.
Yeah. Krona, thanks for sharing it, but I'm going to end up wrap up with what KK posted today in LinkedIn. I think everybody's cycle differs. So that's what KK, I mean, I'm little twisting what he said exactly, but everybody's cycle differs. All of us will have to experiment on our own. That's why that observability comes in. So if you observe and say, there are certain people like Rishabh probably is a night owl. He can wake, I have spoken to some people, they can stay until 1:32, not a problem in the night, no problem at all. For me, after 9:30, I cannot wake up. I cannot be awake. But I can wake up at 4 o'clock and be productive. So I think we need to observe ourselves and build a system towards that particular thing, right? So I will leave you with that. Thank you very much. Next week, as Mr. Kurana asked, we are going to have discussion between Joyce and Ashwini. We are going to title it as Mother's Pride. Please come and we will discuss that. Thank you very much. Stay safe.